Hey everybody, I am CQ. Welcome to my in-car after-action review here. I just saw The Flash in theaters, and I got thoughts. I listed them down here in my phone. I think the first thing to really talk about is the fact that it is incredibly hard to, well, for me, I found it incredibly hard to kind of separate the real life drama of Ezra Miller compared to his portrayal of Barry Allen in The Flash. Like, it just kept, like, you know, because Barry's this, well, the way he's played Barry is this kind of weird, eccentric, excitable, strange kid. And if you know the things that Ezra Miller's been accused of, it goes really quickly from a quirky performance to, like, is he really weird? Like, is he really a psychopath? Is he really, you know, deranged or this weird, like, this strange guy? I don't know. So it's just something that, like, if you don't know about what's going on in his personal life, then maybe it's more of an enjoyable experience. But for me, I don't know. I'm trying to separate. I went in thinking I'm going to think about this movie purely from a movie perspective, not really focus on what's going on outside in the real world. But it's kind of hard to do. It's a little distracting during the movie. So before I get into the spoilers, I'll say that on first watch, it's a solid 7, maybe 8. I do think it's one of the better DC movies, but I take issue with a lot of the things, and we're gonna go over that. So there's your spoiler warning. You know, again, high level 7.5. You know, you want to say 7, 8, somewhere in there. I'm gonna go into a couple of spoilers. So be fair warned, this is how I feel about the whole movie. This is every aspect of it. So if you haven't seen the movie, if you want to be surprised, by all means, go see it. Come back to this review and tell me what you think, because I'm curious if these are my thoughts, but I'm curious what everybody else thinks. So here's my thoughts. First off, for how long this movie took to make, because it was supposed to come out, I think, like 3 years ago. The CGI is not good for a lot of it. The lightning, I feel like they've got it down really well. You know, the blipping in and out, the zipping by. But it was like everything else. Everything, it's very clear when things are CGI animated. Like, there's babies, there's dogs, there's people that are all CGI animated into it. And to me, it was distracting. It looked like if you knew, like, PlayStation 3 cutscene graphics, where it's like, everything, you know what it is, but it just looks weird. It looks off. Which was just strange, and in a time and age when, you know, you can believe in, you know, Avatar, and you can see all this stuff and be in it and believe in it, and it broke kind of the reality for some of it for me. And the opening scene, which is really meant to showcase Barry or the Flash and his powers, it was really distracting, you know, when they cut between a real person and CGI, because, like, it's so obvious. And to me, it was jarring sometimes. So the opening scene was fine as a way to service his character, service his power set. You know, he's saving this building from the hospital from collapsing, and there's funny moments where he's got to collect these babies. In those scenes are intercut with Batman doing what the Ben Affleck Batman doing what he does, and I think in those brief moments you get, like, the best action Batman that I've ever, like, there's just something about those scenes that was shot so well, so good, that I was like, in that brief moment, I go like I could watch a movie of this, him just chasing down bad guys and beating up bad guys. Like, that was so good. Although Like the whole thing was it's Batman chasing down just some like random punk kid, bioterrorism, blah blah blah. Like I feel like in that moment, toss us a villain, toss us a rogues gallery villain. I don't care if it could be super low level, right? Super low level villain. But just give us you're gonna give us Batman, give us a taste of a villain. There is a brief cameo in that scene with Wonder Woman. At this point, she appeared in Shazam. She's appeared now in The Flash. And like I get it, right? Because so many people will watch, let's say like a Marvel movie, and why didn't Iron Man call Captain America? Or why didn't this person call that one? They're part of this big league. So I get it. They're trying to say like, look, we know Flash is a member of the Justice League, and we know when things go bad, they lean on each other and things. So like I get that's the service, that purpose, right? That they're a team and that they call on each other. But when you're just gonna show up, throw a quippy line, and then it's the same gag of the lasso of truth. It's the same gag that we've gotten like 4 different movies now. It's like, I don't know, it just didn't feel necessary. It almost feels like they have to write her into the script. Like they have some contract that they're just trying to get the appearances out of the way to get the contract over. I don't know. Once again, I put Batman is awesome. Oh man. And I think what it boils down to, DC struggles with comedy. Where Marvel has excelled and sometimes gone too far. I'm looking at you, Thor, Love and Thunder, where they take it way too far. DC has done action well, has done, brooding well. They've done, tormented soul well, I guess. Outside of, like, I think what James Gunn did with the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker, there hasn't really been good comedic effort out of DC, and I feel like this was meant to be a very lighthearted, run, so to speak, through the universe. And I don't think it lands well. I think a lot of the comedy is very, very slapstick, like, oh, he runs around to clean up, and then he's like, look how clean it is, boing, and everything falls down. And it's like, all right, that's funny, that's comical, or just certain jokes just didn't land for me. Lasso of Truth, Barry just randomly blurts out because he's touching the lasso. He's like, I know what sex is, but I just haven't done it. Like, and that's like a really weird thing to just randomly blurt out. Like Batman's tie into it and why he's being truth has to do with like Wonder Woman, is like, oh, I know you won't say thanks. And then I'm my ego's too big to say thank you. And like, so that ties into that. But for him to just touch the rope and then randomly blurt out about sex, I mean, I guess he thinks Wonder Woman's hot, I guess. I don't know. So the whole point of this movie, if you've seen a lot of the trailers and the commercials and things, is that Barry goes back in time to try to save his mom from being killed, which, sidebar, they never expand on who killed her, why they killed her, how they got away with it. Like, it's just, oh yeah, she got stabbed in the kitchen, with Barry upstairs. No sounds were made. He comes down as his dad was coming back, whatever. So that's just random. Somebody randomly came in and murdered a woman, which is strange. Where was I going with that? So that's why the movie takes place, is he's going back to save his mother, which Bruce Wayne clearly told him, like, don't go back in the past. If you fuck with anything, you can literally destroy the universe. And he's like, I got this. And he does it anyway. That sets the whole movie in motion. The idea is that as he's coming back, there's this chrono bubble, whatever you want to call it. He gets knocked out of it and doesn't make it all the way back to his present. He's still a few years in the past, right up to the point where right before Superman 1 takes place, when Zod comes to Earth. I do think the explanation of why he changed that one thing, and then how do you jump from that to getting, Michael Keaton's Batman, right? How do you get to a world where there's no Aquaman and no Wonder Woman? Because you would think, well, if he changed that one thing, how did he change things from even earlier on? And I think I'm going to give them credit because I want to be balanced. It is one of the best time travel paradox explanations of all time. What it boils down to is that he didn't just go into the past and then go forward in time. That when he went into the past, time works on like a fulcrum. So it's not just a line, that he basically created an entire new timeline where even the past is affected. So like one of the running jokes is, and I'm a big Back to the Future fan, is that Eric Stoltz was the main character in Back to the Future. He's Marty McFly, which people that know their history, Eric Stoltz was the main character until he was fired and Michael J. Fox took over and became Marty McFly. So in this universe, he finished it out and became that, and like there's a whole bunch of the George Clooney's in Top Gun, and Michael J. Fox is in Footloose, and like there's a bunch of random throwaway lines like that to show how wacky and different this world is. Of all the things to be like, so many things are the same, yet the things that are different are our movies, you know, and the fact that we don't have superheroes. Again, being nitpicky, inconsistencies in the story. So there are, in certain instances, they make it very clear, Barry, you can't move people long distances. You have to do it in short bursts, otherwise they get sick and they get damaged and all this and all that. Like there's many scenes where he has to very carefully move people. But if you've watched any of the other movies with the Flash, dude is straight picking up people and zooming them everywhere. So, which is it? Another point is, okay, now he's on a whole new timeline, right? He goes back. He's now in the, let's call it the Batman 89 universe, where Superman doesn't exist, and Michael Keaton's Batman, a much older Batman. In our universe, or in Barry's universe, Wayne Manor wasn't where Bruce did his work as Batman. It isn't where he had his Batcave. At one point, he goes to Batman. Batman says, I'm not going to help you. And he says, fuck it, I'll just break into Batman's Batcave. This Wayne Manor doesn't exist in his universe. And even if you say, well, he could assume that Batman has a Batcave where he lives, he wouldn't just know how to break into it. He wouldn't just, he literally walked to a specific manhole cover on the property and was like, go down this tunnel, that's the Batcave. That shouldn't be feasible or possible, because this isn't his Batman, this isn't his Wayne Manor, this isn't his universe. So another thing about the inconsistency, especially when he's speaking about his speed, and this is the hardest thing to do with any time you have a super speedster. So even I've seen it in Superman movies, I've seen it in X-Men movies with Quicksilver, I've seen it, in The Boys, any movie, any property that has a super speedster. Hardest thing to hit is that so many things could be avoided if they just use their super speed. There's a scene where the Flash bumps into something and it slowly falls over. And that's the gag of like, oh, they caught me. You have super speed. The minute it started to tilt over, you could have just slowed down time, grabbed it, put it back, no problem. So many times. I lost track of how many times of why now are you choosing to walk at regular speed? Or, he's doing all his stuff and this building's collapsing. And then he's watching it like we are in real time. Because you can tell the difference, right? When he's watching something in slow motion, right? Everything slows down and he's looking around. He's like, okay. But now you're showing it to me. He's talking to Alfred on the comms. And he's like, oh my God. Oh, there goes the building. It's collapsing. Why aren't you I don't know. It's a hard thing to do. I recognize that it's a hard thing. How do you raise the stakes for someone who can always move ahead, always can be faster, always could be, doing these things? It's a hard move, the hard target to hit. Sometimes I'm gonna edit all this out. So last couple things I want to talk about is the villain of the story. It's kind of hard to pin down. It doesn't follow a traditional 3-arc story where there's a villain that we've been building up to, because you kind of assume oh, he's gonna stop the murder of his mom, but now he doesn't go a different route. And then Zod becomes a thing, so you're like, okay, we're gonna build to this big moment where he's gonna fight Zod and he's somehow gonna save that universe. And then they kind of sidestep that. The whole point of going into battle with Batman and Supergirl and the two Flashes is that no matter what, he can't change this point. He can't. This universe is going to die. It has to die. And then we build to this kind of cool moment where, oh my God, he built this other Flash that ends up becoming a evil version Flash. And what's strange is, I guess you could have called him Zoom, or you could have called him Reverse Flash, or you could have did all these things. You could have made all these different takes on all, but they just kind of went with like, bad guy Flash. They don't really explain it. Again, one of those things where they just kind of like gloss over it and go, he's bad now. That leads to a lot of inconsistencies again, because it is him who, while Barry is traveling, that knocks him out of the portal to then create him. So again, you come into this, you come into one of those paradoxes of like, how was he created to then knock Barry out to create him infinitely? But then again, and this is what kind of bothers me, there's no emotional payoff, because Barry kind of goes like, oh no, you've become this monster. And then the other Barry was like, oh no, I guess I'm that monster. And now Barry that we've known, the younger Barry, the new Barry, sacrifices himself to save our Barry from himself, thus killing himself. How does that work? Like, again, it's one of those emotional moments that I don't feel like they didn't build up to it. They didn't pay it off. It was him basically butting his head against the wall of like, I'm going to keep trying. And then eventually he's going to become that monster. But in this moment, he just realized like, oh, I guess I won't be? Like, how does that work? How does any of this work? So I don't know. It was just kind of strange. It was like, all right, let's wrap this up. And like, let's put a pin in this. And because of that, I feel like Supergirl doesn't get her due in this movie. Batman Michael Keaton had some great scenes, had some great moments, but again, ultimately kind of just is squandered at the end, because it's just like, well, we're done with that now. So it's like a lot of fan service that like doesn't get paid off. This is just like, well, we're done with that. And then what really irks me is that ultimately Barry learned nothing, right? Because he does go back and I'm going to set things right. But what does he do, right? The surprise here as you go to the courtroom is all of a sudden his dad now looks up into the camera, because instead of putting the can of tomatoes on the bottom, he put the can of tomatoes on the top, forcing his dad to look up, freeing his dad. Barry just learned that changing anything in the past will change the past and future. It will put you on. So why does he think he can make that change and not have consequences? So in essence, he's learned nothing. He's learned absolutely nothing. He learned a better way to avoid, very much Back to the Future style of where like he did make changes for his own betterment. But we have much like Back to the Future that I think about it years later, there's no idea the ripple of consequences that, yeah, it worked out for him and his family, but who knows what those ripple of consequences are because you've changed the past. So it irks me that he didn't seem to learn his lesson. And that brings me to my final point, which is the consequence of that is he comes out of court. He's all happy. Bruce says, hey, man, I'll meet you out front. And who the fuck comes out of the car but goddamn George Clooney? Another Batman, which this movie is full of cameos, both of the present and of the past. Our dearly departed Christopher Reeves, Adam West. Like, we even get Nicolas Cage's Superman, something that never actually happened, but it was in the works, fighting a giant spider. What the fuck? So Barry comes to the present and everything seems normal, but you got George Clooney taking, and then it just roll credits. You can't just leave on that. What? Are we saying that now he's in a different universe? He's in the George Clooney universe? Like, what are we saying with that? I feel like the people that directed this movie were like, well, fuck the DC universe. We're just going to kind of do our own thing. And like, we'll play with their toys, but we're not going to like clean up when we're done. That's what it was like. A kid just bringing out all his toys, all his Legos, all his action figures, all his Hot Wheels, playing with them, making a big mess, and then be like, I'm done. And just walking away. Is Barry going to stay in that universe? Is he going to somehow try to figure, like, what does that mean? Are we going to get another, if they're going to give us Flash 2, and it's with starring George Clooney as Batman. Like, maybe, I don't know. I think Ezra's got a lot of issues right now, so he's not gonna be working much. So I'm like, is the universe broken now? And then just for those of you that like to stick around, the end credit scene, there is one post-credit scene, and it was nice, right? It's a cute little, they gave up a little love to Aquaman. Doesn't really tie into the story much other than him being like, well, there's so many Batmans, but it doesn't give us anything. I'm guessing that, they were filming around the same time Aquaman was filming, so they were just like, hey, come over to the set, we'll shoot a scene, which there is a cameo earlier by Aquaman's dad, so I'm sure that was much the similar situation. It's nice to have it, but again, it'd be nice for us to give a little indication of what to expect, because we know that James Gunn is now running the universe. We know that once Aquaman comes out, and I think like Blue Beetle, because even Blue Beetle, I'm not sure which universe it kind of takes place in on the DC side, because it's not part of James Gunn's new DC universe, but we haven't really seen it tied into anything of the current DC universe. So I don't know. Once Aquaman and Blue Beetle kind of come out, I don't know. I don't know what happens to this universe. I don't know. They haven't, they said we're going into new properties. We're doing a new Superman, a new Batman, all that. So I'm going to assume this continuity is going to be over. But James Gunn has also said that once he's done with Superman, he wants to go back to do season 2 of Peacemaker. So does the universe continue on? I don't know, man. I don't know what DC's planning. And I don't know if they're purposely keeping us out of the loop, or just trying to buy their time until they can work it all out. Either way, that is my spoilerific review of The Flash. Not a bad movie. Visually, a lot going on. I don't know. Parts of it were really good, and parts of it I was just like, this is I mean, okay. It is what it is. I don't know. Am I getting too old for comic book movies or something? I don't know. I don't think they're, I don't know. I just don't think it's hitting the way, we built up this anticipation to this movie, and it was supposed to be one of the greatest, superhero movies, especially for the DC universe. And I just feel like it was all right. It was good. But it wasn't breathtaking. It didn't blow me away. I felt like there was a lot could have been done better, I guess, is what it boils down to. So thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for sticking this out. I appreciate you. And let me know what you think about The Flash. I want to hear your comments. I want to hear your takes. Where do you agree with me? Where do you disagree with me? Let me know. Let's have a dialogue about it. And I'm gonna start doing these more often. Once I come out of a movie, I will give a review and we'll go over it. So thank you for watching, and yeah, we'll see you in the movies.